communication through the public sound, and then we distribute our research, our story, our photo exhibition through the bookstore, etc. To try to communicate with the public about the issue in the official channel. That's the way we do to increase the visibility. And we know that in Vietnam and in many other Asian countries, family is so important. It's really hard to come out to the family. And we know that we are a community of LGBT, and we have our own friend, our own community, LGBT community, and more LGBT people want to be part of it. And we have many volunteers who organize events for us, who communicate our message to the wider public as well as wider LGBT. And this is a group of LGBT people who organize an event for iSEE. And I have to say that this is the first time ever we have the rainbow flag in Vietnam, and it's lovely. So I have to say that our work about LGBT rights is just started, and we achieved some success, especially in media, in public education, in community empowerment. But we know that through time we get more support, but we also face more challenges in the future. But we believe that, and we are quite positive about the social change that will happen in Vietnam. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank RFSU for the partnership that makes this project possible, especially SIDA, because SIDA actually now is the only or the main major donor in area of LGBT in Vietnam. And I also would like to thank Civil Rights Defender who sponsored my trips this time so that I can make this presentation to all of you. Thank you.
For a good presentation. It was very interesting to hear more about your work. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on the future challenges you just mentioned. In your view, what are the biggest hurdles facing the LGBT community and civil society working towards supporting them? Thanks.
Yes, we think that the public resistance might come very soon. Because when we organize an event and we have the whole week covered by media, for example, and then we suddenly see some reaction from some expert on newspaper. They say that, wow, homosexuality suddenly become something like hot topic now. And he started talking about the family values, for example. That's common in Asian country. So I think that that's a kind of struggle in Vietnam. That's mostly about public understanding about homosexuality. We don't have religious extremists or fundamentalists that go against LGBT in Vietnam, like Indonesia or Malaysia, for example. In that area, we are lucky. So that will be one of the main resistance. The second main resistance, I think personally, very much about the struggle within family. Because domestic violence against LGBT sons and daughters is still very common in Vietnam. And you know that in Vietnam tradition, that's so important. I guess the same in Sweden, but in Vietnam it's so important because we believe that sons and daughters should support their parents even when they get old, for example, so that's so important. So I think how to have a kind of supporting system for LGBT within their family, and also how to get the support from parents is also a big challenge for us. And we just start working on that, and we have to learn a lot about how to work in this area. Because in Vietnam, there are very few organizations working on this, and we are new, and we don't have much experience to learn within the country, for example. So I think that's maybe the two main challenges for us in the future.
South Asia is that very many of the organizations that have been formed have done that from a position towards gender. They have been either working for women with a feminist perspective, or they have been working with, this is not true in all times, but as a tendency, or they have been working with men's health, one would say, as a response to HIV. And you see a very clear dichotomy between these two organizations, or these kinds of organizations. Whereas in Vietnam, now when you are forming an LGBT movement, you are forming it men and women together. And I would like to hear a little bit about the strengths and the possibilities this gives, but maybe also the risks and if there are different needs in the groups of women, men, and transgender people that you already at this stage see evolving within your organization.
Yeah, in Vietnam, I think like a number of the organizations working on LGBT issue, and I know 4 organizations, iSEE and CISAGA here, and the other 2 organizations in Vietnam. I had project or activity and focus on LGBT rights. For example, on 17 this month, we will organize iSEE, CISAGA, and CISIC, another organization. We organize workshop on domestic violence, but against LGBT. And we invite all other organizations working on domestic violence and gender equality comes and to share experience and try to mainstream LGBT into their work. And I don't know how far we succeed, but that's the strategy, and to try to engage them. And actually for iSEE, we also use the same strategy. We also, for example, this year we bring LGBT issue into broader civil society movement and human rights movement in Vietnam, in ASEAN, for example. So we kind of bring the topics, become official for the ASEAN People Forum. It's a kind of forum for all civil society in ASEAN, 10 countries, to talk about issues that matter to people. So we also bring LGBT in and consider as part of the civil society movement. So we not only focus on LGBT rights, but mainstream it. So that's the strategy we are trying to do as well. Same for HIV. It's not just about HIV, but very much about human rights and rights of people to have those service, non-discriminatory service, for example. That's the way we want to. Did I answer that question?
Yes, indeed, thank you. Any questions from the audience, please?
I represent an organization called Humanists, and 10 years ago I tried to stimulate setting up an humanist organization, but what I found at that time, that was the whole idea of having independent organizations was so quite different from what we are accustomed to. For example, in Sweden there is no law about free voluntary organizations at all. But when I got to the whole law in 10, 20 pages about the law for restrictions for organizations, and my question is, hasn't the situation changed a lot since it was 10 years ago when I had this experience, and how unfamiliar people, I worked with researchers, how unfamiliar the whole idea of independent organizations like what we have so many of us in Sweden.
I think I have to say that Vietnam changed very fast, and I think people working in Vietnam and living in Vietnam can see that as well. And in terms of independent organization, I would like to talk about broader context in Vietnam. We are still one-party state, for sure. And there's the law on association has been drafted 20 times, but never passed. Because of a lot of reasons behind that, but it's debated, it's supported by donors, by INGO, etc., but has never been passed. So it means that in the Constitution, we have all rights: freedom of expression, freedom of association, demonstration, for example. But into the law, it's another story that's what we have to say. So the legal framework is quite limited in terms of setting up independent organization in Vietnam, and it's still the case if you look into the legal framework. But in reality, you can set up the organization not very difficult, I have to say that. And you can register under various umbrella organizations, like USTA, Vietnam Association of Science and Technology, for example. They have something like 300 independent organizations under them, for example. I registered directly under the Ministry of Science and Technology, under the law of science and technology.
Thank you very much for your presentations. I was privileged to live in Vietnam between 2006 and 2010. And I must agree with you, and I listened to you only since I left in 2010. Lots of things have happened, so the development is very fast. My point is, and I don't want to overestimate it, but I still want to ask you, many years ago in Sweden, when the homosexual people came out, it was of some importance to them that some so-called famous people came out and made it easier for them. And my question to you is, has any of the big shots, artists, perhaps even some high-level member of the Communist Party, come out in Vietnam?
People say that within the community they know some very VIP people at the top, for example, who are gay or lesbian, but they have family and they have high position. So that's why they could not come out because of their position. So that's the top among LGBT community. So I'm sure there are high-level people, but they have so many constraints that they cannot come out. I would like to say that in Vietnam this year, last year there were lesbian weddings in Hanoi. The law did not allow same-sex marriage, but people organized their own wedding. And one lesbian wedding last year and one gay wedding this year. And it become focus for the media and also for society. Because suddenly two men get married and two women get married. And it's contrary to all social norms, social value, legal framework, but it become a hot debate among the media and society. And I think that is good in the sense that it brings the issues to the public. And people still have different opinion about that. But it makes the issues more familiar, for example, bring more opportunity for debate and discussion. So I think that maybe that's the Vietnamese way. We don't have famous people to come out and become the focus for the public, but we have activities that also get attention from the public and also attention from the media. And actually that's why the National Assembly had to put that into their working agenda, to review the law on marriage and family, and they will include LGBT thing. So I know that the public is still divided, and experts still divided, and legal policymakers still divided. But we have 4 years to go. That's why we now work very hard on public education, lobby advocacy, and try to prepare for that.
You said before that gay and lesbian marriage is illegal in Vietnam.
Illegal.
It's not allowed? No. But then, I mean, there was a lesbian and gay wedding. There was no interference from the government or the police or nothing, nothing happened afterwards?
No intervention, no arrests at all. And actually, it's even debate among lawyers. They said that, well, we don't allow marriage, register, you cannot register as wife and husband. But we don't, a lot of people can organize wedding. It's a personal event. For example, you can come together, invite friends, and you can organize something like party.
Like a birthday party.
Yeah, so it's not about marriage by certification, but just the party and the event itself.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have a question. My name is Peter Folkestone and I'm Vice President for RFSU. And I'm very happy that you have been here. It was very interesting for me to listen to what you achieved in Vietnam, and I hope I want to give you a present, so keep up the work, what you are doing right now. So, thank you very much.